in many years of research which I've done about abilities of people which they have discovered or they have trained them to be able to achieve, I have learned that unfortunately there are so many scam artists and maybe even big part of them are really believing to their abilities but unable to see the faults on their thinking. So, well before that, when I was young, it was about, now I'm 52 almost, so when I was about 10 to 15 years old in my country back, it was very popular team. It was ex-Soviet country, and people believed very much in the possibility of talking to the dead and healing and all kind of stuff. And at the same time, it was also quite a high level of skepticism in the country, in all the Soviet countries. It wasn't accepted by the government that these abilities are possible. Nevertheless, later I learned, many years later, decades later, I learned that Soviet government actually used these people with special abilities, but officially it wasn't possible. It's not physics, it's just scam. And so information wasn't very widely spread about it. Was all under the secret talks and like not clubs but mouth to ear, it's one hears talks to another one, and so it wasn't very precise information what somebody could do and what somebody could not, and definitely a lot of the stories were exaggerated. So I didn't make, because of that, that I was into mathematics and physics and sciences more from young age. My parents were engineers both in military factory, and I studied engineering later as well. So I didn't want to have a bad image about myself. So the things which I noticed about myself by my personal experience, I kept to myself mostly. Sometimes I talked to some people, but very, very few. So basically, here I'm gonna tell the things I noticed, and I would start with the most impressive things which quite changed my thinking about the future. It was when I was about 12 years old, maybe around that, plus minus maybe 2 years. One day when I was walking near to my home, I just noticed that I remember this situation. I've seen it in the dream before, and I knew what's gonna happen. So I was about to, when I was walking, I was about to reach a corner of a building, which is just next to my home building. And I knew that as soon as I reached to that corner, a woman comes from behind that corner and crosses me, and I knew exactly how this woman will look because I've seen that in my dream before. So I made an experiment. I knew what's going to happen. I stopped. I turned 90 degrees. I moved to the left and maybe 5 meters to the left, and I stopped without going to the corner, which was still about 20 meters away. And from right side, behind that corner, woman came out and walked just walked her way. And at that point, I realized that even if you know the future, if you've seen it in a dream or some revelation, it doesn't mean that future has to be exactly like you've seen it, how you know it to be, that you can change the future, that what you can see in your dreams are possible futures. So that was one great revelation to me. And that was the only one which I really exactly precisely knew in advance and changed the situation. But I've seen many times, many more times, the situations which I've seen before already, like deja vu. But later on in psychology, I learned that there are some explanations about deja vu, how the brain is falsely giving you impression like you've seen it already. But I personally call it not real deja vu. There are pseudo deja vu, which are brain giving you a just sensation like you've seen it before, even though you haven't. And there are real deja vus, which I had at least once. Maybe I had more, but one was certain because I was able to verify it with my actions. If I changed the action, I knew what's gonna happen, and I waited to happen, and it did. That was one such revelation that there is something strange going on, not explicable in science. About healing, everybody tried in my country. Let's say not 100%, but most of people definitely tried healing and either tried to heal their friends or searched the healing for themselves, and of course I did too. And I had some quite staggering results, which might be coincidences, but might be also the placebo effect. Especially about cancer, I had some very impressive recovery of one person who was in the bed and about to die. And after my visit, he came out of the bed like completely recovered for a couple of months. But as he was thinking that, okay, now the cancer is over, he continued his lifestyle, smoking and drinking, and he died later. But the surprising thing was that his son, it was his son who I met later, he said that when doctors were looking at the pictures, the cancer was gone completely, and for a couple of months. And when it came back, it was just so fast that they couldn't find me. I wasn't dealing with that healing all the time. I was doing business and martial arts and traveling a lot, so I wasn't always available. So now, before I recall I haven't written down anything. I just pulled from my memory. And just a note that I've studied a lot of psychology and clinical psychology myself. Actually, I went through all the study courses online several times now during many years to recall myself. And I knew that memory plays tricks, that memory is not very safe source to tell the story and to be absolutely right what happens. So I may be making some things up which I don't intend to make up, but that's how I remember them, and then memory just adjusts either to your wants or to your needs internal needs. So sorry about that if something isn't absolutely right, but I can, for example, recently about my memory. Like recently, several years ago, when I did first attempt to tell about my life, I told several hours of stories about my travels and about my life in Soviet countries, about the business I did and martial arts. And when later I listened, somewhere I said that I never reached a black belt on judo, and that I studied all till the brown belt. But later I think, no, I never got actually brown belt. I got like green or blue belt. I don't remember which one, but I wasn't till brown belt I didn't get. I studied, I knew all the technique, but maybe in the video when I listened to a story which I just told, recorded, listening it gave an impression that I got a brown belt, and I didn't want. I stopped after I think green belt I got. I stopped. Even my professor wanted me to continue exams and to give, because I knew the technique. I was teacher myself already, and I for young people, for newcomers, and he wanted me because of having better. For my teacher's opinion, it would be better if me, as I know, I should pass exam. Better for students, so students look high up, like. But I didn't want, because by that time I knew that belt is just for holding up a pants. That the color of a belt doesn't mean anything. And I developed my own style and mixed several arts, including my proper techniques. So basically, I knew all the technique, and I rejected the idea to have a higher color belt on as a teacher. I even didn't put my own green belt on. I always went to teach with white belt. So that was my style. I always teach my students that if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong and show me if you can do better. And if you do better than me, I will adopt your technique and I will listen to you. So that's how it should be, in my view. But that's a completely different story. I'm talking now about abilities. And the memory can play tricks. So what else I wanted to tell? Many years later, I was about 40 years ago, 40 years already, around, yeah, over 40. And I was in one of my friend's house, and he was a believer, and we talked about religion a lot, but I tried to convince him that religion is just a business, and finally gave up because he was so convinced, and his wife is also religious. So I worked for him in his house, and in garage one day when I slept in the garage. He was repairing cars. He had like car service, and I slept in the office. And one night I felt like I was not sleeping yet, and I felt like half asleep and half awake, and I was like taken out of this planet. It was a very strange feeling, and I was pulled through the universe like very high speed, and I had felt like around me it's like kind of shell, and I felt very, very warm but not burning, and I felt some information like not a god but some entity, like telling that it wasn't like direct telling. I just knew it. I instantly knew it, that they are coming to Earth once in 3,000 years. That's strange, very strange. It was maybe completely made up in my mind, but and when it was all over, I came back to Earth. Then I wrote it all down. I spent about 1 hour or more to write it precisely down on several pages, what exactly I felt, how it was, etc. Somewhere in somewhere is this note, maybe still some place written, because I later I destroyed it. I don't know why, but I didn't want to be looked at as a crazy person. I told to that friend at whose place I was staying, but the experience, very strange experience. What other experiences I had? Car crash, maybe, because I had very severe car crash, very high speed, like 180 kilometers an hour, maybe not so much, 120, 130 maybe, and crashed to a tractor and a tree. After skipping the tractor, the car hit the tree, and I survived that hit, even though even the police who came to take pictures of the crash, they didn't first even try to check if I'm alive, because it was so damaged, the car, it was just impossible to survive, in their opinion. But when I moved, and then they brought me to hospital, and 1 week later I walked out of it. I still have problems because of that, because left knee was broken in 5 pieces and ribs broken. But the doctor said that by their opinion, by the impact, I should have been dead, because internal organs should have been exploded, or there would be no survival, but nothing with internal organs. But I again, I try to be grounded on science and every explanation. I think it was because of my very tough training on martial arts. I trained very hard, and especially judo. Judo, you be thrown during training all the time on your back, and your body gets tough. So that's probably what saved me, not some special abilities or external force or angels, whatever. I don't believe in angels. I just believe on extreme capabilities of human and mind, especially mind. Mind is much more flexible than body, and so I believe things which are not explained, because now recent years there are many science proofs that there exist connections tested with electronic means, but we can't explain how it's possible. It's just now common knowledge. But back then, I kept it secret. That's why I'm now talking about it, because I'm no longer afraid about talking about it. It won't affect my future anymore, because I'm not employed by anyone. Nobody gonna fire me, or I'm a street artist. I learned last year how to make money on the street because I couldn't find any job, and I'm getting better at it, and I'm finding that I don't need to look for employment anymore. So it won't affect my life. I mean, if I tell now the truth. But about the healing, I stopped that at some point. That the science wasn't still there. It was about 25 years ago. The science wasn't still there to prove about the mind over matter effects. So most of my friends are all science grounded, and I didn't want to be in bad light because of that, to look crazy for them. So I stopped all these kind of experiments, and I don't know, maybe I regret that, but at the same time I never regret anything. I trust the universe. I trust the decisions of universe. So because everybody is an idea of a universe, philosophically they'll say that we are part of universe. I am universe, like you are, and everybody is. We are just tiny part of the universe, and there are definitely going on, let's say, calculations, scientifically said, not ideas, but definitely calculations give answers. Answers are decisions for next step of calculations. So now I would say that I just trust the universe, that whatever comes to my life, I try to listen to the universe, I try to follow it. But the thing is that I stopped testing my abilities for many years, even decades. I was still curious, I was learning all the time, but I concentrated more on the possibility of and the research of living longer. I mean, not like with a diet or with some. I have to plug in another recorder because it may drain the battery. 1 second. I forgot to plug it on. Okay, it's connected now, so I won't run out of battery. So basically, I trust the universe that I stopped my own techniques and practice. I learned a lot, and probably that was a good idea. It definitely was a good idea that I was all the time critical about all kind of unexplained effects. Whatever I learned about UFOs, etc., I always looked for a proof and explanation. And only now, when there are enough science backing up, even though without explanation, we are backing up the facts that the effects exist, then I'm ready to concentrate more on my own experiments. About the weather now, another thing I noticed, and it is recent. Maybe I tried when I was young, because I tried many things and I just maybe won't remember. Maybe I tried in the past as well, affect the weather with my mind. But it was just a few years ago. I was about before I was 50, so 3-4 years ago. It started as a joke. It was in Switzerland. I was in Switzerland and a colleague of mine there. I worked as a street vendor. I don't know exactly how it's called, selling newspapers on the street. So another colleague of mine was from Australia, and she couldn't fly there for vacation because the forest fires all this Australia were going on. And as a joke, I said, okay, I make a picture, sigil, like a picture which will end the forest fires, and I concentrate about it, and you think about it as well. And it was just a joke because she was completely unbeliever, and probably still now non-believer about these things, that it was impossible to stop forest fire. But a few days later, suddenly there came rain and the forest fire stopped, at least at close to her living place and living area. And it was absolutely unpredictable because there were no climatic situation which would predict any rain coming soon. So that was an interesting. I started to think about it. I paid attention to that coincidence. I was laughing about it, but it wasn't serious research. At the moment, it was just a joke. Even though actually I believed maybe, because I've seen strange things happening, and I believe maybe. So it wasn't a complete joke, but I never did that before. So for me, it was still, I didn't expect any results sudden, but I hoped it will. Definitely I did hope. It did happen. So when I started to pay attention and about my mind, meditation, and trying to modify weather, and I found like cameras, online cameras to look the weather. It was just recently, just a few years ago, I started to do that, and to see the effects so very precisely. So I had some results. Very strange, but it needs to be tested very precisely with scientific methods and calculate the probabilities. So I can't say anything if I do have any abilities yet, or it's just a coincidence. So another test was recently with forest fires in Russia. I didn't look up any cameras, but there are huge areas and forest fires. I looked at the news all the time, and I tried 3 times on different messages written by for myself, encoded messages, so only I could understand what I wrote down. But on third attempt, on third day, finally I saw the results. So since then there is no news about forest fires. So before was every day in the news, every day in Russian news. I looked at Russian news every day, like forest fires expanding. After first attempt, for first day after I started to do that, trying to affect with my mind to end the forest fires, actually the forest fire area expanded by 10%. So it had no effect at all. But second and third day, finally, they stopped the expansion of forest fires and they took control of it. Coincidence. I need to test more on that, but I got a lot to do. So right now, I finally actually came over the self-restriction, let's say, to start any videos, to talk about it. That's my first video. I don't remember that I ever have told on record, any of this that I'm telling now. To the friends, yes, but knowing that won't go out. So I just came over the fear. Maybe it's fear, but I can't tell what it is. But I couldn't start. I never could start talking about it. I did years of research about filming, about sound recording. I bought different cameras, nothing quality, but enough to have some decent sound and decent picture. And now I'm recording with different devices. I have several of them, but I decided only I'm recording with two of them and one external sound recorder for better quality sound. But I spent years of researching the filming, how it's made, the lighting and everything, and I don't have any good situation now for filming or no studio where there's constant noises outside, and that's how it is. I finally decided I have to tell my life experience on this part, this side of my life. I wanted to tell one more thing about recording. It doesn't matter. I try to recall now some more stories which really had effect on me, thinking that something must be more in universe than just physics that we know of right now, that there are more things to discover about our abilities. And there are, actually, I remember there are, when I was younger, I was testing my physical abilities a lot, jumping from roof to roof. I didn't even know parkour existed yet. I was in Soviet country. I was young and we were cut off from a lot of information. So I tested myself. I jumped over from building to building and risked my life for trains. I trained a lot from jumping on the moving train, but not on high speed, on areas where trains slow down, and cargo trains and a couple of passenger trains as well in the back. So and cars, I mean trucks, and even one fire truck I once jumped behind just to cut my walking way shorter. Just and one crossing, the truck is moving, you jump behind, and another crossing, when it slows down, you jump off, and it was just a usual training for me. I did tens and tens and tens of times because I often shorten my walk to school that way. Just a couple of 100 meters on the crossings where I knew that I can closer to a school. I just practiced. So the point I wanted to make that as I risked my life, of course, I had accidents as well. I mean, I fell sometimes, and there were a couple of falls which were really bad. Like I was in one stadium walking on the handrail. It was wooden handrail, and stupid as I was, I should have known that it was strong wood, but as an engineer, I was already studying engineering then. I was still maybe 18 or 17 something, and I was running down the rail, and as you run, you move, the pressure is higher with your weight and impact on the wood, and it broke down and it flipped, and when it flipped, I fell on the broken part of rail, which one side was went onto the ground, and I fell on the broken part on my stomach. And when I was running down, it was speed, and my 90 kilogram of weight, 80 I was back then, 80 kilograms of weight on the sharp pointed point of a broken handrail. With all my weight, I fell onto on the wood, and like rail is up, and I fell on that like that, and fell over side. And when I came up, I was worried first that okay, it's not good. But I looked at the stomach, nothing, even no trace, little lightly red skin, but nothing at all. So I was okay, that's strange. I haven't trained for that, but nothing happened to me with that, and that was interesting to think that some energy maybe. One more interesting story I just recalled. This one I haven't told anyone at all. I mean, the situation itself, people saw it and there were cameras and everything, but the connection with other people, that's interesting to tell. And I have to tell that I must tell in the story, and you make up your mind yourself. What does it mean? It was about 15 years ago. I was working in Nice in security. Actually, okay, I'm not gonna hide it. I'm from Estonia, ex-Soviet country. I don't like to tell it at all, but I'm just telling for record now that I'm not fan of my country because of corruption, and I escaped and I left my family behind, and I separated to protect my family. So just for record, there's no point to hide it. It's all over now. I'm not going back there anymore. So 15 years ago, I was working in Nice, still illegally. I wasn't still legal back then. I was working black as a security guard in one bar, which had often drunk people and problems. And it was same owner who had a club. I worked at night time at his club, and daytime I worked sometime extra hours I did in his bar. It was day bar, and there came one gangster, some Sicilian gangster, was inside and insulted people and getting drunk, and I don't remember, maybe he didn't want to pay or something, but I nicely advised him to go out, and he didn't want, and so I helped him out. But he became angry, of course, and he reached over the bar to the table of a cook who made salads and some small stuff there, sandwiches, and he took a kitchen knife, but fortunately it wasn't very sharp kitchen knife. It wasn't like pointed. It was some kind of knife which wasn't too sharp. And gangster, of course, he's used to handle the knives, and he succeeded to hit me twice. I did some judo things to him. I didn't want to punch him out because even though I'm good at punching, if in certain situation you better don't use karate because it's not so effective. It's better to grip someone and not to let him move. So I gripped him, and he succeeded to hit me twice. Once in the neck, and second time in my back. So I put him down, and I got his oxygen, and when he calmed down, I let him go. And police arrived, and I said, "I'm just friend of my friend of a bar owner, and he had a problem here." But police, of course, knew that I was working there, but we didn't open any case because of that. That they knew that not to make a big story out of it. But okay, he left, and I went to work on my computer. I worked on my cryptography stuff, and funny thing that a friend comes in. I can't understand you. The person hit you twice in with knife, and you just 5 minutes later working on computer. I couldn't be able to work, to concentrate on anything anymore. Stuff happens in Russia all the time, and I'm used to that. It was my life before I came to France. But when he said, "You've been hit twice," I said, "Really? I was hit twice a knife. I don't remember that." So he showed me video on security camera, and I looked. Okay, really? He got one kick on the neck and another one in my back, and they found the knife, and the knife was bent. It didn't pierce my body. So I looked through mirrors, and he took photos, and we found little red. Little bit skin was red on two places, but nothing else. But that's not all. The thing is, that everybody knew that there, and what was strange, like next day I read the newspapers at the same time, same day, maybe even same hour, but I don't know exactly. There was one priest in nearby church, maybe same time, maybe another town, but near this area was attacked by someone from crowd and killed, and with knife, and with one hit on the neck and one hit on the back. That's what I'm telling. First time in the record. You can find out if you want in historical, I don't know, through the internet, some old newspapers, the story. But I didn't tell anyone about this connection. It's just coincidence. But that's something that put me think about it. The universe had another idea for me, not to die in that moment. What else? I had several car accidents, but I came out alive from all of them, as you see. And I hadn't probably so bad. But car accidents, yes, but just accident happen and people survive. That's nothing special. But about the mountains, I told that on my stories about my travels as well. But that was another interesting situation in mountains when I meditated on the crevasse there was some nice place on the mountain river. There was like not really canyon, but it was like only 20 meters high, deep. And I was 20 meters above the small river there, meditating every day on high mountains. And I was there for a month, about a little bit more. And one day I just didn't want to go. I was going every morning there. Every morning I was going to place, meditate. And one day I didn't want to go. I don't know why. I felt it's not good. And another morning I went. All the crevasse was gone. All the place which was hanging over the river fell down. So I could have been killed on that fall, but I counted as well a possibility that my subconscious just realized that it's not the same as before. Maybe it was already a little bit falling and it wasn't as stable. And even though I didn't see that, it was covered in snow because every night it was snowing on mountains, there are high mountains. So it was covered in light snow, and I was usually sitting in the snow there. But I didn't go there, and maybe it's some special connection with universe, mountains. I mean, not special. I mean that spirits, but special in that sense that you feel the energy, the changes which are not usual. But it's also possible that it's just my brain realized that the area is not as before. Something has changed, even though I don't remember it precisely, but my subconscious remembered that and blocked me from going there. What else? There are some more stories, but touches my family life, maybe ex-family life, and I told that story about in my trial stories. I don't want to talk about my ex-family anymore because I don't feel like talking about it. What else? Let me think about what stories I have told them to my friends, what I remember. Strange happenings. Definitely there are many. Definitely there are many, but I don't things that I could explain it with in other ways, not by resorting to some extraordinary or unexplainable situations, things that could be just coincidences or possible reaction of subconscious, which conscious mind can't handle. Then I just don't need to tell them these are usual things that are happening to many people. But even if only one of these stories is something extraordinary, not explainable, that's already enough to tell that something else is going on in the universe than just the physics what we know of. And the first story, which I began with, about seeing the future, which happened. I can't see that on the real, like I'm gonna sleep now and I see my future. No, it doesn't happen like that. One incident when I was very young, that's enough to tell me that something else is going on in the world, in the universe. And now I'm planning to make more tests about weather because it's easier to test. I mean, I can choose the weather situation which is very unlikely to be changed by itself and just try to have an effect on it. And I can take it all on video because the technology is all out here, available. About training of my mind, of course, I keep training on keeping me healthy and not resorting to special diets, just healthy eating, but no diet has ever made anyone immortal, even hasn't doubled or tripled anyone's life. And thus, diet is not the point. I mean, a few days ago I saw very funny meme on the internet. It's message to all the vegetarians out there that no one has ever found a cave painting of a salad. So keep it in mind. You need proteins, animal proteins for living, and especially for functioning brain. If you want to know, to study science a little bit, you'll understand. Anyway, I guess that's it for this video. I don't need to make it much longer. The message is clear. I've noticed several happenings in my life and several coincidences which are not really easy to explain, and I'm concentrating on my research on that from now on more than before. Before I did just a research. Now I recall what I wanted to tell about mindset. It wasn't about filming or technology. It was about mindset of shamans and witches or whoever, call them as you want. I've learned about as much as I could on internet. Like a year ago, I started to study and I downloaded tens and tens of videos, hundreds, and of course I discarded the BS, but bad science. But I discarded also that these ideas which are total nonsense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, not psychologically, not scientifically. But I found what very interesting. Teaching or it's not even teaching, but the general idea of why these people like shamans, and they need so many stuff and tools and smokes and special talismans, etc., and maybe clothing or like head covers, etc. These are aids for setting up a mindset to get connection. Themselves, the icons or the talismans or smokes or drinks or whatever, they are not mediators of a contact with the universe. These are just tools to get you into a mindset. So someone who has trained already the mind, they don't need this. These are absolutely not necessary. These are just for people to help themselves. You can get rid of them. You don't need them after you've learned to put your mind into a certain mindset. I never used them. I always trained my mind, but just recently I learned that these are not even necessary, because I never used it, because I didn't know the purpose of them. Why should I buy some souvenirs or talismans or make some concoctions, or I don't know how we call them, some drinks special, if I don't know how they use, I don't have such a knowledge. But fortunately I understood recently that it doesn't matter what means you use. You can use your own mind meditation techniques, which you develop yourself through trial and error by experience, or you learn from someone which kind of tools, external tools like talismans, etc., and which way you use them to get you into a certain mindset. But they are not necessary. They are not obligatory, mandatory for getting connection to the universe. Remember, you are part of the universe, so you are already connected to the universe, and you are an idea that the universe had. So your way could be to understand that what is the idea in you, what universe had for you. So that's my way, and I trust the universe that I've been always in the right way. Okay, it's time to finish that video now, and I will think about it if I will post it or I'll keep it for myself. We'll see.